Reading 41 from the Psychological Commentaries on the Teaching of Gurdjieff and Ouspensky by Dr. Maurice Nicoll, Volume 3. Coramide, Uglé, August 10th, 1946. A note on second body. To be happy apart from outer circumstances is a goal well worth striving for. Our happiness, such as we are, depends on outer conditions. The man who has reached a stage in which he has something independent of outer conditions, something which is independent of failure or success, cold or heat, discomfort or comfort, starvation or plenty, such a man has second body. What does it mean, second body? As we are, we only have one formed body, namely the physical body, but it is possible for a man to form another body within himself. This is one of the teachings of the work. This second body does not depend on the first body, but in fact can control it. Whatever the circumstances affecting the first body, whether it is in prison or not, whether it is in discomfort or comfort, whether it is surrounded by evidences of wealth and power or by poverty, this second body remains uninfluenced. In the practice of non-identifying, we begin to make this second body, and in fact, everything the work teaches is connected with this goal. It is said that a person who is always making requirements is always unhappy. What does it mean, making requirements? It means that your happiness depends on certain outer things being right according to how you think they should be right. You don't like these people, you don't like these circumstances, you object to this or that, and so on. In such a case, you are making requirements, and your happiness will depend on outer things, which, if they are not what you consider right, will plunge you into depression and negativeness. Such a person has no inner state sufficiently developed, that is, no second body, to make it possible for him or her to be independent of the ever-changing conditions of life. It may surprise you to be told that you can often find happiness when everything is going wrong by practicing the work. You know that it has been said that everything that happens in life is a means and not an end. But have you thought what this signifies? Whatever the circumstances you are in, they can be taken from the work point of view as a means for non-identifying. Do you see what is meant? People take life as an end, and they do things in life from this point of view. They always seek results. They work for results. If they encounter failure, they are rendered miserable. But in this work, we are told not to work for results, but whatever we do, to practice non-identifying and self-remembering. Now, if your happiness depends on the praise of other persons, you are a machine. If your happiness depends on making money, again you are a machine. Because you may lose money and destroy yourself. If your happiness depends on people treating you rightly according to your picture of yourself, surely something is wrong. To be always making accounts which arise out of making requirements cannot possibly be a source of inner peace of mind. To be always thinking that things are not as you wish them can only make you continually unhappy and negative. It is you yourself who have to awaken and have to hold in yourself the secret of being happy. And this holding means sealing yourself from the effects that outside events, outside conditions, have hitherto mechanically had on you. All of us have acquired absurdly typical ways of behaving towards people and outer conditions. It is just here that one can separate oneself by noticing through self-observation how one is reacting to the moment. Yes, it is well worth just noticing this, and often during each day. Now, in connection with all this, which you have already heard very often, I would like tonight to speak briefly once more about pictures, roles, and attitudes. When a man or a woman has a strong picture of themselves, they are liable to be vexed by life. A picture of oneself is a fixed form of imagination about oneself. I used to think myself a good boy. I need not say that it was a long time ago. It was quite definitely a picture of myself. Naturally, being a good boy, I could never tell a lie, and naturally, of course, I told a good many lies. I could not see the dark side of myself, what I actually was, but was kept on one side through the influence of the picture. You will be able to see that by having this picture of myself, I told more lies than I needed. Everything false arouses its opposite. Now you know that we have to accept the opposite side of ourselves, or the dark side, which simply means the side that we are not properly conscious of and do not accept. Consciousness is light. What we are not properly conscious of is dark to us, in obscurity. A great deal of work has to be done for many years just exactly on this point. This is a very useful place to work on because it brings into the light of consciousness, through self-observation, knowledge of yourself that contradicts the pictures of yourself that have hitherto had power over you. It would be marvelous if our pictures fell away. A picture of oneself shuts out any reality. It is a picture and not what we really are. This picture prevents us from accepting sides of ourselves that do not agree with our pictures of ourselves. In consequence, we get divided into a light and a dark side, and this creates great disharmony. One can see people living all the time in a picture of themselves and being constantly vexed or surprised. The next point is roles. Everyone has typical roles that he plays. A person probably has 5 or 6 roles that he uses for ordinary life. Now, it is wrong to say that people use these roles. The right way of putting it is that these roles use people. Let us say an innkeeper once entertained royalty. This forms a role, and he can never stop talking from this role, which is like a gramophone record. I remember once that a question was asked in one of the earlier meetings in London as to how it is that people who in ordinary life seem to be at ease and talk a great deal become silent in the atmosphere of the work. One reason is because they cannot use their ordinary life roles. They can, so to speak, turn nothing on, and therefore do not know where they are. Now this means we live in some kind of artificial state. When you talk to a man with a lot of roles, you get an impression that he is not there, just as you do when you talk to people who have very strong pictures of themselves. The third point is attitudes. Pictures, roles, and attitudes prevent us from any real understanding of ourselves or of our lives, and they all make us dependent on outer conditions. A man or a woman full of pictures, roles, or attitudes cannot form second body. He cannot get behind himself, cannot separate himself. How then is this to be remedied? It is only remedied by gradually seeing pictures, by becoming aware of roles, by becoming conscious of attitudes. So it is necessary to observe oneself. Attitudes are very easily formed by upbringing. You are taught that this point of view is right, and thereby you have an attitude laid down from an early age. You may, for instance, have been brought up amongst anarchists and think they are right. How easily our psychology can be seized hold of and spoilt by outer things. Now, how can a man be happy in himself when he is full of unconscious roles, of pictures, and acquired attitudes that act on him all day? Realizing this, it is well worthwhile, in the great discipline of self-observation, to notice very carefully what vexes you, what destroys such happiness as you are capable of experiencing. When you have made a good observation, try to find out whether it is due to a picture of yourself that was not satisfied by the behavior of someone, or a role that you turned on that met with no praise, or an attitude that was completely useless. How often I have heard it said, in the earlier work, to myself and to other people, "You have a wrong attitude. You are taking things in the wrong way, owing to your attitude." As you know, attitudes are probably always negative attitudes from which we judge things and people. To be free, to begin to see things a little more as they really are, to begin to see other people a little more as they really are, how is this possible if we are full of pictures and attitudes that make us blind? How can we possibly imagine we can make simple relationships if we turn on our typical roles and boast? It was once said, try to notice when you are talking from attitudes and try to notice when you are talking from roles. If you cannot do this, try to notice it in other people who are doing the same. All these things belong to the external psychology, to the acquired personality, which we have to make passive through self-observation and the insight and understanding that results from it. The outer psychology must be eventually controlled by the inner psychology. This is reversal. This is the formation of a second organized body, an organized psychological body composed of finer matters than the physical body. The beginning is self-observation and the memory and insight that arise from it. Through this, we begin to form a new inner psychology that looks at the outer psychology, second body. Through this, we begin to be more and more independent of the outer psychology and what is happening to it. So we begin to understand what happiness depends on.